guess we are. That's what they call live. Okay, all those that can stand, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it's nice to see a full house. I hope it's nice to see a full house. Okay, roll call.
All board members are present this evening.
All right, on the approval of the agenda, I'd like to make a couple of changes. The first one is item 8B. Gary, I want a little bit of, may need some response on this one. I want to remove it and close the discussion on it. In other words, done.
Just remove it from the agenda.
Okay, we're going to remove item B from the agenda, 8B. The next one is Resolution 18-24 Fire Insurance Withholding Program. We're going to wait on that one and move it to our August board meeting. We talked with our fire marshal earlier today, and we decided we'd like to have some more things kind of assembled for the board to understand how it's going to be implemented if we do it. So we felt it better to push it to August. It's not like we've got to do it tomorrow or anything. So
I think that's a good idea. I saw you folks got statute. If you looked at it, there's good and bad.
right. So we want to look at if any of you read that documentation. It's not that complicated, but what happens is, just for explanation at this point, it's a way that you can get the insurance companies to put some money, hold some money back from insurance paid out on homes that burn or get or should be demolished, so that you can have a little bite to make them cleaned up a little earlier if they're not moving forward, or if they just abandon it. But Judy and Tammy and I talked about it, and there was some, how does it work, who's going to be responsible, so there's all these questions. We'd rather have that all answered and laid out in a format so that no matter who's here in the future, we understand how it works.
Just one suggestion along that line is I wouldn't put anybody's name in there, but put the position in there, because if that changes, then you don't have to go back and correct the resolution.
Yeah, well, we're going to get with you, Gary, before we get involved in that, but that'll go in the August meeting. So those are the two items. So anybody like to make a motion to approve?
I would move to approve the agenda with correction, or with deletions.
Support?
Okay, moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, the next item, consent agenda approval. Before we get into that, this is pretty simple, but there is one mistake I found in the board minutes, and it's under public comment. It says, resident comment support regarding chill at the mill project, fire chief, thank you to board members willing to assistance. I believe the word should be assist.
That was at the end of the meeting, right?
Yeah. All right, that's the only thing that I saw in there, so.
I would move to approve the consent agenda with corrections to the minutes.
Support?
Moved and supported, vote please.
Mrs. Chenoweth?
Yes.
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 Motion carried.
All right, announcements and information inquiry. We're gonna have a special board meeting scheduled for Wednesday, July 25th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. And for those that are here tonight that are party to that information, that is going to be on the red poppy. There may be one or two other items that could get attached to it at that time, but so we put that as its own meeting so that we could have that discussion instead of trying to blend it with a bunch of other things. So, standard time, 6:30, Wednesday, July 25th. The primary election is Tuesday, August 7th. Sounds like Summer Outdoor Music Series started up last night for the first concert, and there are Tuesdays at 7 p.m. through August 14th. The first concert, we probably had 250
at least, yeah.
people there, which was one of the best turnout we've had so far.
More
So
than that.
it was hard to count,
It was a
but the
big
park
crowd.
was full. So, and it was excellent. So come on out next Tuesday and enjoy it.
Next Tuesday is Fire and Ice. It's a Pat Benatar tribute band. I think she plays other stuff too. She's a Katie Foster who grew up in Milford, went to Milford High School. She does a Pat Benatar thing. It's supposed to be very, very good. So next Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
All right, public comment. Anybody have any
I
public
do.
comment? Yes, ma'am.
I do. Yes, about the June 21st, or the special board meeting. I just wanted to say that at the June 21st Planning Commission meeting, we spent approximately 2 hours discussing the bed and breakfast application and how the operation could be successful while making a minimum impact on the neighbors. We did make a motion to recommend approval of the bed and breakfast to the Board of Trustees and outline conditions to be met. Because I serve on both of the boards, I have been at least 5 meetings where the red poppy has been discussed. I have received numerous letters and phone calls from Harvey Lake neighbors and residents of Highland, some in favor and others opposed to the red poppy. I also visited the red poppy and spoke with Mrs. Johnson. I'm very disappointed that I will be out of town and I won't be here for the July 25th meeting. So I am requesting for the board, I'm asking you to consider this, to proceed with the public hearing but postpone a vote until the regularly scheduled meeting in August. Thank you for your consideration.
And you can take that up at the special meeting. You have the ability, after you conduct the public hearing, to postpone the decision.
Okay,
And you don't have to decide whether you're going to do that tonight.
well, that's a public comment, so, thank you. Anybody else, public comment? All right, oh, yes, ma'am, name and address?
Okay, hi, I'm Denise Pastana. I live at 928 Joshua Drive, and I'm here representing the Huron Valley School Board. I'm a trustee there, and I just wanted your board to know that at our June 25th meeting, we made a resolution that we would support the library millage, the fire department, and the police millages, all their renewals, and so we let our people know that we were supporting that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Do you still like your position?
I do.
All right. Thanks for doing that, appreciate it.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Donna Hubbard, 1556 Pruitt Drive, Highland. I would like to also speak about this upcoming millage. I have 2 concerns, that both the library and the fire department, the tail end of them say a portion will go to the Highland downtown development. Is there a reason why there's not a percentage or a number, or how do we know what portion is going?
The apportionment for the DDA is only captured on the lots that are in the DDA district. So each lot has a different capture amount, so it's kind of hard to say what the percentage would be. It's not a flat percentage. So that capture, once again, what you have to look at is it's a capture of taxes that would generally, as in a larger percentage, go out of the township. And they're kept here for business and economic development. So the best example is the sidewalk that's out there. If we had, as a township, said we want to put a sidewalk in there, we would have had to assess a special assessment to each one of the property owners, which would be essentially a tax increase because they'd pay for it. Because the DDA has the ability to be able to capture those tax dollars that would have gone to the county, and some of the money that would go to the township, the fire, the police, and the library, it's able to pay for that without anybody having to pay any additional fees. So everybody benefits from the additional capture that's held here. So it sounds like there's a big amount of money being taken away from everybody, but probably nobody in this room. Who lives in the DDA district in here? Does anybody? That's basically Milford Road from Row Road to Wardlow Road. So you're not paying any taxes on it, and you're not even getting a capture on it. What happens is it sounds like it's a huge thing, but it's a very, very small percentage of the taxes captured. Total taxes captured.
Speak to that.
Yes.
For 2017, I figured out what the percentage was because that seems to be a common question. It was 1.5% of the tax roll. The capture, to explain the capture a little bit more, in 2004 when the DDA was formed, there was a base value. So it was what every parcel in the DDA was valued at that time. The capture is the difference between that base value and what it is today. The one thing that most people don't know about that is when the economic downturn came, it goes backwards too. There was a negative capture as well. So parcels that value went down, it took away from the capture as well. And the goal of that tool is to increase the value of that township or that area, as well as the entire township. Milford is the perfect example. Everybody that has a Milford zip code, their house is worth more because of what's happened on Main Street in Milford. And that's because of their DDA. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
And I have a comment too.
Yes.
Another area that I see that people are confusing about it is that, first of all, it is not on the library millage. It's only on the police and the fire. And it's not optional for us. Because we have approved a DDA back since 2004, we don't have the option to leave off the DDA capture off of any millages for fire police. The governor allowed libraries to opt themselves out, and that's the only reason it's not listed in the library. But it is required for any millages that we put out.
Right. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
something real quick. I just
Yeah.
wanted the board, and I was in a couple of weeks ago helping with the election stuffing ballots for the absentee ballots, and a guy came in, a gentleman, about getting a cemetery plot. And so I listened and learned, and I realized it was $500 if you wanted a plot if you were a resident, and $1,000 if you're a non-resident. So my question to Dawn Mecklenburg was, why couldn't we have a fee somewhere in the middle for somebody who was a resident at one time of Highland? You know, they want to be buried here. Maybe they've been here for a while and they moved away and they want to come back and be buried here someday. So something I'd like to talk about in the future, maybe having a middle, $750 or something for somebody that was a resident at one time. So it's not, because they're truly not a non-resident. I don't think they were a resident at one time. They paid taxes, and their family probably paid taxes at one time in the community. So just something that struck me. I didn't know anything about it, to be honest, and I learned something about it. So it's something I would like to talk about down the road, see what we think. And
Good time to do that is when we approve the fee structures.
Okay.
You know, because we do that every year, and
Yeah.
that's part of that fee structure is what we charge for
okay, perfect.
cemetery plots.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other comments? All right, we're going to move on. Tonight we've got some presentations. There's 4 different things going on here. I'm going to list them off so we know how this is going to go about. The first one is the appointment and swearing in of Kevin Garrity. So Kevin is hiding right there. He's not hiding. As a Highland Township firefighter, appointment and swearing in of Gary Bonham as Highland Township Fire Department Lieutenant. Gary, you are hiding back there. Scholarship award to Haley Kenwood. Haley, I saw you come in. Did I see you come in? There she is. You're hiding back there. And then we have some folks from the Water Resource Commission to talk about our water system. So the first item, Chief 2, I'm going to call you Chief 2.
Best thing you've called me in a long time.
Oh, you didn't hear that, did you?
Okay, I'm the Assistant Chief, Richard Cole. The Chief, Ken Chapman, is at a conference in Boyne, so he's probably having a good time. But anyways, yes, Kevin Garrity came to us in March of 2017. Then he got a probationary status. And now, after, I guess I would like all you to know, when we bring in firefighters, you just don't get a chance to go out, put a red light on your car, go squirt water, and that kind of thing. You have classes to go to. And all of us are, have full-time jobs besides the working on the fire department. Our fire chief is the only one that's a career. And so Kevin started in March, and on the average, like I said, it takes 12 to 18 months to go through firefighter 1 and 2, which the state requires, and which the state and the fire department require EMT status. That's another six months. So Kevin has worked real hard in achieving passing firefighter 1 and 2 and EMT, and now he is in with all the requirements that the that the fire department has. He's achieved all those, and I'd like to present him with a certificate as a regular Highland Township firefighter. As you can see on the front, well, the shield won't stay up. It says Highland Township Fire Department. And he's from Station 1. For the last almost year and a half, he has been wearing a yellow helmet with a big P on the front, which meant probationary. And now he gets people that we work with around the community and outside the community. Now he's a full-fledged firefighter. Congratulations. Sure.
Jackson, come here.
Bring the kids up.
Bring your muscles.
Maybe my new helmet? No, yep.
Oh, this one? Okay.
I think you need a picture to get
I'm trying to get a good one here.
Cal, right here, speed. Cal.
All right, smile. Good job. Congratulations.
Over here, Kevin. Look over here. Mom's over here, so like. I got the girl. Good job, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin?
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead. I don't want
You don't want that?
You can carry both of them.
I just want to say that Kevin and I are Southsiders of Milford, former Southsiders. We grew up in the same neighborhood up over the hill, down by the water tower, and it was very, very cool to see. I didn't realize you were at that point already, and to see, I saw the agenda, and it was pretty cool that, hey, I'd be here to see this, and it's nice to see your family, and huge turnout. And we're very proud of you, so go Southside. Thanks.
Southside Highland.
Southside, South. Well, we were South Milford, now South Highland.
I'm gonna swear at once.
Okay. All right.
All right, Gary, how many years you had with the department? 20 years. You stuck with it for a long time, and we had a lieutenant retire, and Gary passed all the requirements and interviews, and now we want him to be our lieutenant for Station 1. lot more a lot more responsibility, but I've been around him for the whole 20 years. I know he can do it.
Hey, come on. This digital stuff for birds.
Nice haircut.
Good job. Thank you very much, Gary.
I like your barber.
Congratulations.
Yes.
I'd like to thank all the applicants. It was amazing to see the folks who stepped up for the application. All their application packages were really, really nice to see all the work that was done and their preparation. And it was really hard to make a final decision, but we appreciate all the hard work that the firefighters do and all the folks that made the application. You're all really great, so thank you.
Thank you.
And can we
Well,
have,
we also bring that, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
can we do the swearing in real quick before they want to leave? So Kevin and
Gary? Yeah, come on
if
up.
you could come up and do the swearing in real quick. Anywhere up there is good. Okay. You ready?
Where are you gonna go?
I do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
the duties of firefighter or lieutenant firefighter.
the duties of firefighter
Right. In and for the Township of Highland,
for the Township of Highland,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
and State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Before I get started, was there anything else you wanted to say? All right. Also, we talked about probationary. We have two new probationaries that started this June, and one I see is here, Mr. Morrow, and then the other one is Mr. Friedman. So we do keep building, and that's what a good fire department does. Also, we have a young lady that started with us and been here about 2 years, year and a half, 3 years.
Time flies.
She was also elected the firefighter of the year last year for 2017. But Haley went out and received a scholarship award to take her paramedic classes, and this award was presented to her. And now, just to be a firefighter, it's firefighter 1 and 2 and EMTB, like I stated, she's going up another 2 levels to become another one of our paramedics in our department. Congratulations. You're doing a lot of hard work.
All right, well, thank you, all you firefighters, for what you do. We're looking forward to building this fire department, and you guys are the key to the whole thing, and let's cross our fingers that the public is going to see the value in the millage so that we can build for the future and not just maintain for today. So anybody that you guys that want to leave at this point, you can feel free to do so, and thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, all
Yep.
of them.
I know. I'm saying, about 5 times. You can stay there now.
All right, is that good enough? Oh, I thought we're done. Well, let's them clear out here for a second, and then we'll.
Welcome. Congratulations.
You want to introduce yourselves and we'll...
Sure. My name is Tim Prince. I'm a manager for the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's Office.
I'm Amy Proof. I'm the engineer for water systems for the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's Office.
Thank you. So I want to kind of preempt a little bit.
Sure.
We had a meeting about a month ago, I think it was, to have a discussion over this, and this was the results, kind of that discussion. It was with Judy and Tammy, myself, Beth, I think was Beth Corwin, our engineer, was there. So this is the opportunity for you guys to do a dog and pony show to explain what it is you're trying to have us help you do.
Sure. Okay.
So go ahead, Tim.
So I'll go ahead and start. So we're here to talk about transferring ownership of the Highland Township water system from Oakland County, who currently owns the system, to Highland Township, where the system is obviously operated, maintained, and serves the residents of Highland Township. With that, we would need to establish an operating and maintenance agreement which would allow the county to continue operating and maintaining the water system on the township's behalf, and essentially provide the same service that we're providing right now. And so I've got a presentation here that'll sort of talk a little bit about the history and explain sort of why we're bringing it to the township now. And then it's a fairly short presentation, so we could probably sort of hold off for questions to the end, and then we'll answer the questions and then talk about next steps. So a little bit of a historical perspective. Axford Acres and Breton Oaks, I don't know, is anybody familiar with those areas in the township? So a little bit familiar. There's some small water systems there that provide water service with a community well system to part of Axford Acres and to Breton Oaks. And back in 1976-77, that's when developers built these well houses and built the small water systems to serve these developments. And at that time, in 1976 and 77, both of these it was authorized by the county and the township to have these systems built, and the township authorized the county to take ownership, and the county agreed to take ownership of those systems. This was back in 76, 77. Since then, we've had a number of other water systems. Again, these are sort of developer-funded water systems, and in between these water systems, there was also some mains that were installed that sort of interconnected the system. So right now, it's really one big water system that's interconnected all of these smaller water systems. And then there's one White Eagle, which is sort of its own system out. And we have a map that'll sort of show that to you. But unfortunately, with all of these other systems, it never went to the township board for a resolution for the county to accept ownership, and it never went to the county board. So there's really no agreement out there for all these other systems that says, oh, the county, we authorize you to take ownership and we want you to take ownership. The county said, yes, I'll take ownership. Essentially what happened is these developers built the systems and gave a quick claim deed to the county WRC office, the office accepted that quick claim, but never really went to the township or the county and got official approval for it. One side note is that actually back in 2000, there was a resolution that Highland Township Board approved, and they did approve transfer of all of the systems at that time from the township to the county, but that resolution was approved, but the Board of Commissioners never approved it. And it never got executed, and it never was followed through. And I'm not sure what happened at that time, but just sort of a side note, we've sort of been through this before, and now sort of we're bringing it back again. So next slide. This is that map I was talking to you about. This is the White Eagle here. Axford Acres is over in this area. Bretton Oaks is here. Prestwick. What else is down in here? Timber Ridge. Yeah, Timber Ridge. So this is sort of the system as a whole. Obviously, a lot of private wells here. There are some residents connected to the community wells that are operated and maintained by the county, but still a large number of private wells also. And there's a couple of them that have already, the Axford Acres has been abandoned, South Bay Shores has been abandoned. Anything else, Amy?
Yep, that's
A couple of the well systems, like Axford Acres, which was originally, that's been abandoned due to water quality issues and other issues. So that's sort of what we're talking about when we talk about transfer of the system. So, you know, why are we talking about this again? Essentially what happened is the county had a construction project that went bad on one of the large sewer systems the county owns. And it resulted in, you know, some damages and some claims and insurance companies and litigation. And I think once the county saw that on this large county system, they started looking at the smaller water and sewer system and said, what would happen if this same kind of thing happened on those systems? And basically the county said, look, these aren't systems that are serving the benefit of the entire county. They're systems that are benefiting specific townships. And at the time we had 3 systems that were like that: Oxford Township water system, Oakland County water system, or Oakland Township water system, and Highland Township water system. So that sort of got them to look at, should we really be owning these systems, or should they be township systems? And at the same time, they went back and they looked at all of our operations and maintenance agreements and said, hey, look, it's time to renew all of our agreements and look at this ownership. So that's sort of where, you know, WRC came in, and we started this process in the fall of last year, actually. And so we've met with, we've got a new operations and maintenance agreements with Royal Oak Township. That's a smaller community. It's a small township in Southern County. So we operate and maintain that system. We've got a new contract with them now. For Oakland Township, we've transferred ownership of the water system from the county to Oakland Township. We've come up with an agreement with Oakland Township. Oxford Township, similar situation. We're in the process of transferring ownership and coming up with an operations and maintenance agreement. And then the last one we've worked on is Farmington Hills. Farmington Hills is obviously a larger community. It's supplied water through Great Lakes Water Authority. But again, those were agreements and contracts that need to be renewed, and then we're in the process of renewing it. So now we're coming to Highland Township, sort of presenting this to the board. And you know, this will be the first meeting, but obviously we'll have other meetings and we'll have further discussions about it. So the other thing to mention is this: the insurance is the key component. So again, this construction issue we had on the large interceptor really opened the county's eyes to what if that's happened in one of those systems. You know, the county could be liable, the township could be liable. And so we actually started looking at different kinds of insurance policies that, you know, we operate and maintain at least a dozen water and sewer systems. So we looked at policies that could cover all these different systems the county operates and maintains. For a big catastrophic event that if it happened, you know, how would you pay for it? And, you know, obviously for, you know, depending on how big this was, it could really cause some problems with this issue. So they've been successful in finding a policy, and that's the other thing I'll sort of cover later. Transfer of ownership. Again, I'm basically currently owned by the county. We operated for the benefit of the township on behalf of the township. But right now, legally, the county is the final authority. So we may make a decision that township board doesn't agree with, but since we own it, it's our system, we make the decisions kind of thing. It's not the way we operate the system. We operate on your behalf. We try and work out problems. We work together, but it could come to a point where we come to a disagreement and then the county says, no, this is the way we want to do it. So if the ownership is transferred, then obviously, again, we can still operate it on behalf of the township, really no change in the cost or the funding or the service that we provide. But, you know, the township board has final authority. It's not the county. You have the authority to make those decisions on behalf of your residents instead of the county making decisions on behalf of your residents. So that's really the big difference. And again, the ability to transfer funds to the township for system oversight. So if that means a certain part of your staff now is spending time on the water system, again, that could be a small rate component that we collect, we give back to the township, and then the township could use that to pay part of their salaries, because you are gonna have to, you know, part of your time, as right now probably, goes to work with us. But again, it might mean a larger segment of your time, and that could be offset with, like a small rate component, where that fee would come back to the township and help cover your cost of, you know, owning a system. You're still contracting with us, but you got a certain amount of your time that you're going to spend on it also. So the O&M agreement, so that would come with this operations and maintenance agreement, and we spent a fair amount of time with Farmington Hills on this operations and maintenance agreement. So we think in Oxford Township, and Local Township, so we've been through it a few times. We think we've worked out most of the kinks, talked about the insurance a little bit, but basically it outlines, here's what the county's responsibilities are. We're going to operate and maintain it. We've got certain responsibilities, and you know, here's what we're going to do. Here's the township's sort of responsibilities. And the compensation, essentially the compensation is we do exactly what we're doing right now. No money goes to the county general fund. No money goes to the county. It stays in the Highland Township fund. All the revenues that we collect for billing stays in that fund. All the expenses stay in that fund. And the balance stays in that fund. So it's basically neutral for the county, and the revenues stay in the fund for future expenses. They even, you know, they even have like, they invest any excess funds so that you're actually getting a return on those instead of just sitting there not collecting anything. So also sort of outlines the scope of work. Again, I don't see any changes in what we're doing right now. It just would outline what those responsibilities are and what's included in that scope. And it's essentially the same work we're doing right now. I don't see any changes in the level of service. By that I mean, you know, the level of service isn't going to drop off. It's going to remain the same. And quite honestly, the township would have more say on, hey, look, I think you need to do a better job with this, or I think you need to do a better job of that. You need to spend more money here versus there. It would be more geared towards what the township wants as opposed to how the county runs the system. Again, no significant changes in the funding requirements. Again, if the level of service stays the same, it's the same cost, nothing really changes. The insurance provisions, actually I'll talk about three things. One's property insurance, general liability, and then professional liability. So instead of trying to answer each one of these questions, I just sort of talk about each one of them independently. So property insurance, right now, the county's actually insuring that property. So again, that wouldn't have to change. There's about $4.5 million in insurable property. So the water lines and the hydrants and valves, that's not really being insured. It's underground. There's really nothing to insure for property purposes. But it's really the well houses, the tanks, the, you know, things that could be hit by lightning, or could, you know, something may happen that's unexpected and could cause damage, or some kind of big electrical surge causes some pumps to go bad or something like that. So again, it's a pretty good deal. $4.5 million in coverage. Right now, we're only paying like $4,000 annually. So it's something we have already. We would obviously continue with the agreement. The general liability and professional liability coverage, those are the two items that I talked about earlier, that, you know, the county looked at all these systems we operate and maintain and said, we really don't have anything in place to cover these kinds of things. So general liability would be, you know, something bad happens to this system and you get some big claim. Maybe there's a main break and it causes all kinds of damage, and either on private property or maybe there's some kind of water quality issue that you get some kind of a lawsuit on or something, you know, and it ends up. And so this insurance, we'll look at it a little bit closer, but this is really for the catastrophic events. So it's a $250,000 deductible. So we're not, but you see what happened in Flint, you've seen what has happened in other places, and things can happen that you don't expect to happen, and then what if you get hit with some big ticket, and how are you going to pay for it? You know, so that's the general liability. Professional liability is very similar. It's really errors and omissions so that could be something that actually Oakland County staff made some kind of an error, and it resulted in some kind of a claim that ends up being pretty big. So the coverage that they have acquired covers both of those, and I think there's some more detail on the next slide. So this is the pooled coverage. So what they did is they said, the county's covered on all these systems because we're going to get the coverage for the county in case the county gets sued. But we'd also like to be able to give coverage to the communities where these systems are in, because if something happens, they're probably going to go after both of us. They're probably going to go after the county, they're probably going to go after the township. So what they did is they got a pooled coverage that is eligible for any of the systems we operate and maintain. And so what the pooled coverage is for all these different systems, as a group, we got a $10 million per occurrence for general liability and $10 million for professional liability. So first thing I'll say is we haven't had any claim exceed $250,000 on any of the systems we've operated and maintained since 1976. So again, it's not, we haven't seen this yet, but it doesn't mean something may not happen. And you know, as we saw in this big interceptor system that I mentioned earlier. So if it does happen, it provides that coverage, and then $15 million aggregate. So that would be for the entire year, we've got up to $15 million. So when we looked at, these look like very large amounts that would definitely cover multiple systems. If, you know, so something could happen in 1 or 2 or 3 systems in 1 year, and all 3 would get covered up to these limits. The deductible on each of them I mentioned is $250,000. So it's for a big event. But if something big happens, you don't want to have to try and pay for it out of county system funds or through rates. Try and collect that back from the residents. And then this is just the property insurance that we already have. It's $25,000 deductible for the $4.5 million in property. So that's really all I have. And I guess if you got any questions, and then I can talk a little bit about next steps.
I have a question. I don't remember when we talked before about the ability to transfer funds to the township for system oversight. So that's all you're talking about is what it would take for us to oversee the system in-house, or are you talking about transferring all the funds to us so that we would bill and... We
can do however you want it, right? What we do in some of the other communities is the county keeps those funds in a separate fund, and again, they manage everything for you. Most of the other communities don't want to manage that. Even like Farmington Hills, we manage all the funds for them too. But with Farmington Hills, they are a much bigger community, and they actually have multiple staff full-time that work on, for example, water system improvement projects, because they want to take that area of responsibility and handle it themselves. And so, again, the township establishes those rates, and you may say, like Beth, she might be spending some of her time on it, you might be spending some time. Whatever that time is, and you say that's $50,000 a year, or whatever that number is, this is a separate rate component, and $50,000 a year is going to go back to the township to cover your expenses for ownership of the system and oversight of the system.
Well, theoretically, we could continue on as we are.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's completely up to the township, where you say zero.
On our part,
So. It's just something that other communities have chosen to do. It's an option for most of the scope of work, and how we set the rates up and stuff would be completely at the option of the township.
I mean, personal opinion, I'm not looking to create a water department.
Yeah.
When it's only serving like half of the township, if
right.
that. So that's my problem with it, is the water system is not serving the whole township. So to create a department to do that didn't make sense.
Most smaller systems aren't creating the department. We got Kego Harbor, we got Orchard Lake, we got Oxford Township, Oakland Township. Those are very similar sized systems. They have staff that sort of work with Amy on different things, but they don't They leave everything else up to us. It's not a department you're gonna
You
have to
do a
form.
great job.
The question, the insurance, is there the carrier now, or is that the county self-insuring, or?
No, that, they've got a, I don't know, I don't think I have a name, but they went out and got a private carrier to cover it. Yeah.
Who's liable for that premium?
So for Highland Township, if they want to be named an additional assured,
Okay.
then it's $5,000 a year for the township
Okay.
for additionally insured. So because it's a pooled and because the township's small compared to, for example, we've got Farmington Hills, we've got Pontiac, we've got some pretty big systems that they're paying $150,000 a year or so because their exposure is so much bigger. So so it works out good for Highland Township because but if something does happen, it's $5,000 a year. So it's not real expensive, and that's why they came up with this concept of grouping everybody together. If each one went out and got their insurance individually, it probably wouldn't be cost effective. And then the counties cover their piece of, if the county gets sued, we've covered our piece out of county funds.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Chief.
I'm Dick, you probably heard me talk up here before, but there's no process going on right now for the two mobile home parks and the Ridgewood prefab park to come into the system.
We don't have anything right now, do we?
What was the question?
Oh, you don't know.
I think what that would do, Tim, is maybe if this is a correct answer to that, that would be our oversight,
Right.
and we would say we want to bring those into the system,
Right.
and then we'd have to bring it to you guys, and then you'd work out that
If you wanna do an
plan.
assessment,
So the
how do you
county
pay
wouldn't
for
be
it?
the
Yeah.
one saying, you need to do this, it would be us saying, do we want to do it?
So this is the more, you guys are sort of providing the oversight and we're running it for you, It wouldn't be, see, the problem is we're running it from the county and we don't really even, we don't understand where these trailer parks are, we don't know where they're at, we don't know what your needs are. That's something that you guys know. So again, I think that gives you that more of an opportunity to make those kinds of decisions. Bring them to us and then we can evaluate it. We can look at costs, we can tell you what it would cost to do it, different alternatives. And then you would make a final decision on how do you want to fund it? Do you want to fund it? Do you want to move forward with it?
Just as a question, Dick, is that something you think we should do? Just a question.
Well, the systems, because the companies that put all these parks together, the systems do not have the same requirements as the county does in their systems or the systems that we have in the third of the township. So we have to be very careful when we're in those areas and want to use water from their hydrants. We could blow them, we could ask to draft too much water and blow them up. So we still, in some of these parks, still use tankers if we get something big because the capacity in the pipes are smaller, but our volume and pressures are higher, and it's something we should take a look at.
All right.
Down the road.
So what that does, it ties the pieces together that says, okay, Highland Township agrees to take this, to do what you're asking us to do, and I can understand why, because it's kind of things are all over the place with agreements with the county. Then that would be something that we would be responsible to put together the request and maybe the plan even. I don't know if we have to come up with a plan or.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's good information.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Did you say you keep doing the billing?
Yes.
On the systems that would be transferred to the township, do any of them have the major need of repairs right now?
Oh, in Highland Township?
Yes.
I don't think so. I mean, for example, we showed Axford Acres, South Bay Shores, we had some water quality issues, we abandoned those. We've invested in interconnecting the systems and.
Actually, everything's been upgraded in the past probably 8 years. That's what, I don't know, remember that.
I mean, the oldest water mains are what, 76, so they're not, you know, in the life expectancy of water lines, they're still fairly young, so it's.
One other one, you say Axford Acres is abandoned, is that the well or
Yes.
the entire system?
The well house, yeah.
So how is water being provided in the area?
So that was the interconnection of the system, so we interconnected Huntwood Place, and we interconnected Highland Valley, and that's interconnected with Prestwick Village. So everything's been interconnected through lines, much more reliable system now.
And there's sufficient water to service the current service area?
There's essentially one well that's servicing it right now, and I think that's in Prestwick. And it supplies water to the tank that's in Timber Ridge. And then if there's high demand, they can add in the one from Huntwood or Joshua, whatever, of which those are not the best quality water, so it causes issues with iron content and stuff. So they concentrate on using the single well and treating that water. So that's how the whole system's interconnected that way.
One final one. The cost of the liability insurance. For the township being added insured, you said that's $5,000 a year. But is the cost of the liability insurance built into the rates as well?
Yeah, so that is an additional cost. That $5,000 a year would be added to the rates. That would come out of those.
Just the $5,000?
Yes.
There's no other amount?
No. No, the county's covering our share in case the county would get sued, and that would be for the township to be named additional insured. And I've got a real thick specimen that's 77 pages long if you wanted to look into that closer. But most of the other communities have looked at our already, and I mentioned Farmington Hills. They're one of the first communities that signed on to that insurance, and I don't think any of the communities have been able to find any insurance policy out there that they can get themselves that's cheaper than that.
And then one final one. Is the Farmington Hills agreement finalized?
Yes.
And are you willing to do the same agreement with Highland?
Yes.
Because you know we represent Farmington Hills.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, they work with Beth Sorrell in Farmington Hills. And she actually represents, I think, a couple of the other communities that we're working on too. So, and each community may tweak one section a little bit or the other, but for the most part, we can keep it exactly the same. Or if they want to tweak a couple parts, that's fine too. You know, to make them. You know, each community is a little bit different.
Was that specimen you referred to the one that you had emailed earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to forward that on to our liability company and have them review that. Sure. Our representative from MMRMA also had worked with Farmington Hills as you went through that process, so he was familiar with it, and his first response, just basically looking at your presentation, was that he felt that policy you're presenting is a good value for us, but you know, he didn't have any major concerns with it right off the bat, just taking a quick glance at it.
I think Farmington Hills took it to their insurance carrier, and he looked at it, and he said basically the same thing, that he thought it was good value, and that's why he recommended to Farmington Hills that they go ahead and secure it. And that's been done already for Farmington Hills. They've signed on, and they're under the insurance plan already.
Gary, you have anything you'd like to
No.
input?
Sounds like if you want to do it, we might have a contract. It won't take much time.
Yay.
Beth knows a lot more about this stuff than me.
All right, well, appreciate this.
So as far as next steps, you know, we've got the contract in place, and probably what we do is essentially forward the Farmington Hills contract with Highland Township scope of work, and slightly different because it's serving Highland Township, and an exhibit that shows Highland Township, a few minor changes in the agreement. We prepare some transfer of ownership documents that would sort of say, you know, geez, everything under the county would be transferred, and there's easements and pieces of property where the well houses are and that kind of stuff. So it would be transferred with a quick claim deed with all the different easements and properties. And we would get that information over to the township for review and comment. And you know, we'd have to, I don't think it would be a long process, but we could finalize those documents, and then we would need to bring that back to the board for approval.
And one final one, the County Board of Commissioners has not approved this yet, right?
No.
But they would have to.
Yes. Yeah, so that would be the last step. We'd have to take it up to the Board of Commissioners. But again, they're well aware of it. They actually have asked us to look into this with these different systems. We've done Oakland, and we're in the process of a couple others. So But yes, it would have to go back to the board for their approval too.
Well, it seems like a pretty good idea to, it's house cleaning to make sure that and when you see how many things have not been done, it opens too many doors for issues, so. All right. I'm all set. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, next item is renewal of Graycon Services Annual Support Agreement. Gary, you've been through that agreement, and
What you have in front of you is approvable, even though it's not exactly what I recommended at your last meeting. And it's explained in the email that was provided to you, so a recommendation is to approve it as presented.
so anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I would move to renew the Graycon Services Annual Support Agreement.
Support?
Okay, moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, we move on to new business. Construction agreement, Road Commission, Oakland County. This relates to Safe Routes to School program that we're the last minutes of should be installing these things, and looks like there's a couple of faux pas, but our attorney has reviewed, found some issues with the contract. You've passed that in front of the county. Everything's seems to be on the up and up, and we have a
Yes,
final fresh hot copy here.
Yeah, I changed this afternoon to just correct the description, which had 3 schools on 1 road. Judy caught that.
Am I reading this wrong?
So I sent that to the attorneys at the Road Commission, indicating that a corrected version was going to be presented to you tonight. Please let me know if that was a problem. I didn't expect it would be, and I've not heard from them that it was. So the recommendation is to approve the revised agreement with the Road Commission as of July 11. Authorize the supervisor to sign it. And of course, the agreement includes those other attachments. The Exhibit B, which is the contract between MDOT and the Road Commission. And then Part 2 of that, which is a whole bunch of statutes and things that are required for the federal funding.
I'm going to make the motion to reiterate what our attorney has recommended to approve the contract with the Road Commission for Oakland County
Support.
with all your language.
Right, and can I just briefly explain?
Yes.
My issues with the contract were not with the project, but with the fact that it made it out as if the township was actually handling the construction of this, when that's not the case. But yeah, Jennifer did confirm that we hired HRC to basically do what the Road Commission agrees to do in its MDOT contract.
Right.
Do the plans, do the inspections, and all of that stuff. So it just got it down to what I understood the township's obligation actually was.
We appreciate that. So I mean,
I have a question.
yes.
The contract talked about responsibility, like afterwards, Highland is responsible for all maintenance of that, which that's always a ongoing cost, you know, and I don't know if we have any figures on that. It also talked about the landscaping on the path, on the sidewalk. Do you know what that cost is? It says we're responsible for it.
I don't know that there's any landscaping that's involved in the project.
Well, that's what it says in here. That's why I wondered, how much is there and what's the cost of it?
Mary, are you looking at the MDOT Road Commission agreement that talks about
I
that?
thought I read it in our agreement. mark it on my copy or something, just looking back to see if I can find where it said that.
Sidewalks.
There is a provision in the MDOT
Well, maybe that's what I
Road
read.
Commission contract. Give me a quick second. I read that as being boilerplate language that was not necessarily applicable.
Okay.
I want to find that to make sure I've addressed your concern though.
You're seeing that at all.
Like on page 4 of the, it's called Part 1, there was a provision on projects involving the mobility for bicyclists. It goes on to say the requesting party, which is the road commission, which becomes the township. And then there's another paragraph on projects involving the restoration of historic facilities. And then the third one on projects which include landscaping. MDOT agrees to put it in, take care of the watering necessary to have it established for 2 growing seasons. Then the requesting parties to maintain that. That is, if there's landscaping associated with this, and I don't know.
Okay.
Now,
I've
there's
not seen any
nothing-
plans.
Well, that's what I wondered at. I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't know
but if
what.
there was landscaping,
There's a number of trees that are being removed, but they're in the right of way, so they're not being replaced.
that,
And then what happens with the sidewalks is, responsibility is the standard sidewalk thing. The Oakland County throws it on to the township for, they're immune from liability. And I don't know if we have a similar clause. I think it's, we're in the same position because
townships have
it throws it to the
responsibilities
homeowner.
for sidewalks in the public right of way under the Michigan statute. I mean, you've got partial governmental immunity. It's basically a 2-inch rule that can subject you to liability if there's a problem that meets the statutory standard and the township has notice of it and doesn't do anything about it, and that defect causes an injury, you could have liability.
Is there any timeline of when they complete the work, if there's any defects in their work, that they're, the longevity of something?
That's all handled through MDOT and Oakland County, so.
All right.
Yeah, our basic responsibility was, in order to make this happen, we had to agree to put up at least $120,000 towards engineering.
And we did that
We-
a long time ago.
Yeah, right. We agreed to that
Okay.
in order to get that grant, so.
I will mention there's a record-keeping requirement in here, and the change I said was, we'll keep the records as long as MDOT and the Road Commission give them to us. 'Cause I don't know what the arrangements are
Right.
in terms of, maintaining the financial records and accounts and so forth. I did not understand that that was anything the township was doing. So I qualified that obligation.
Okay. So the motion stands. Anybody?
Mark had-
Mary Pat seconded it.
Okay.
Second.
Vote please.
I vote yes.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, next item, list of bills for 6/27/18 and 7/11/18 plus add-ons.
There were no add-ons.
Was there add-ons?
Well,
I'm disappointed.
Don't we? I would move to approve the list of bills for 6/27 and 7/11/18.
Support.
Moved and supported. Vote please.
Mr. Salvia?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
All right, public comment. Yes. Donna?
Donna Hubbard, 1556 Pruitt Drive in Highland. My comments tonight are about ordinance enforcement. I'm on the Board of Trustees for Harvey Lake Estates Subdivision Association. Maple Grove backs up to the industrial complex off of Allo Parkway. And what we've been dealing with now since 3 years ago, and most recently emails, letters, photos since last September. Guardian Asphalt is dumping over there. They have trucks coming in and out, they start at 6 a.m. They're coming in and out at 2 a.m. There is no screening, there is no berm. They don't maintain the berm. The gates are clanging, the backup lights are beeping, and we've got homes that live there. Security lights are flooding into their decks and their backyards. They can't sit out there. It's noise violations, it's blight. They shouldn't be dumping anything back there. And one of our first homeowners began complaining 3 years ago, and we get nothing. So this latest round of stuff I got involved in, because I was circulating a petition for the red poppy, they brought it to my attention. We took photos, my husband and I, we walked up there. It's unbelievable, and one of them has a child with special needs. They don't want the police called out in the middle of the night because it upsets him. Another one has to be at work at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're being told, call the police, call the police. Well, these people are absolutely violating everything out there before the police ever get called. We need to have some ordinance enforcement in this township, and it does not exist. We've still got this house on Harvey Lake Road. There's an abandoned building over there in that parkway that's got weeds up to here and abandoned cars. And then you get someone back there like La Fontaine, or there's 2 other companies that do what they're supposed to do in an industrial parkway. And it's fine, but it is driving people out of our neighborhoods, and we are tired of it. We need somebody in this township to do something about this.
Who's been getting these complaints?
The enforcement officers. Lisa.
Lisa?
Yeah.
And for me, it started June 1st, all the letters and all the emails and all the photos, and I was told that Rick was out of town and he needed to look it all over first, but it's been 6 weeks now. Something's got to be done.
What happened, and I wanted to explain that, what happened is Lisa Burkhart, the enforcement officer, wrote a letter that she was going to send to you, which had a bunch of what I would call issues with the way the letter was put together. And I received a letter on probably June, it was the week that I was heading out of town. In other words, just before I was leaving, which was the 21st of June. And I said, I need to go look at the property. I just got back on Friday, and so I haven't had time to go over and look at the property, but that's where I'm taking it. In other words, she's supposed to have been over there, should have been taking pictures. So instead of taking this thing and saying, okay, just send this letter off, which would just be a letter to, basically you get a copy of it and a copy to them, there were things that weren't really stated correctly in it. So that's where we're heading on that one. I'll give you another answer on the Harvey Lake Road thing. We're in the process right now of eliminating that problem. And I can't talk about that process because it has to do with some real estate transactions. But what you'll see is that property will be completely cleaned and that problem eliminated. So, and it's not going to...
Got a timetable?
I can't give a timetable because it's going to be done by a private owner and not the current owner. So that's the only way we can really make this happen, is to remove the individual from the property. And that's what's happening.
These complaints of noise and lighting and all this go back to last September. Prior to that, the man that had the handicapped child, who has since passed away, was down here. It's just like, if we don't jump up and down and make a lot of noise, and we follow we do the emails, we do the photos, we do what we're supposed to do, if we don't bring it to the full board or jump up and down, nothing happens. Nothing happens. And we look like, we're the people out here raising Cain every time we show up at a board meeting. But, now we're talking about more industry coming in, and if we can't enforce what's there now, what are you going to enforce when everybody else adds on to this?
Do we have a checklist of complaints that when they are registered in, and we know the progress of those checklists? We need to have that, a list of that, so we know what's being delayed. You know, if we're supposed to answer something in 2 weeks or 5 days, and it's sitting up there for another 30 days, somebody's got to deal with that real fast. We have to have some.
Yeah, the other thing that has to be understood is there's some stuff that you have to go through a process that takes time.
Okay, well, I'm just saying,
And
we have that list.
the other part
We can see
is
the progress.
statute-wise, or however you want to put it, it's not up to the individuals to determine what process we follow, and we try to follow the process. There are flaws, and we've been dealing with these flaws for a long time. We have a new ordinance enforcement individual who is going out and putting out doing all the things that he can do, and it's back to the same thing that you guys have been involved in terms of, or know about, which was up on Fish Lake Road. You can only do certain things, and one of the problems with ordinances is you can create ordinances that create problems, and those problems are created by the inability to enforce. So you have to look at the enforcement process as a whole. There's some stuff, you create a rule or an ordinance, and what you just created was an enforcement issue, inability to do so. So those are things we're going to be looking at in the future. We've created a steering committee that meets tomorrow morning for the Planning Commission to be looking at ordinances that relate to everything, and looking at what are the things that we're doing that are creating problems for ourselves as a government to be able to enforce this stuff, or are we creating ordinances that make it impossible to enforce? And our attorney can probably vouch for the fact that there's things we just can't do. But your expectation is that we have a rule or a law that we put on the books. That law probably just wasn't written the right way.
Nobody should have to put up with this kind of noise or this lighting in their backyard day after day when they've been complaining about it for years.
I don't disagree with that.
I mean, it's noise and it's blight, and there's ordinances against it. It's just right there.
So this came to me in the form, what I did is I required, this has probably happened, I think, in the last year, a little over a year, I required our enforcement officer to pass every single document in front of me. Because that's when I started to discover what's the time frame, what are the issues we have. So we've got some issues, we're trying to work through those, and there's some stuff that it's going to take time, one way or another.
Well, their big concern right now is there was a fire on this berm back in February. There's dead brush, there's dead trees, and we haven't had any rain. It's theirs to maintain.
Is there a timetable on this particular item with the asphalt company?
The Township Board is not here to answer questions during public comment. They're here to listen to your comments, digest them. They hear them, and I'm advising against any indication of a time frame on any particular property.
So let me ask the final question then. When I'm sending a letter out, am I including the whole world? Am I involving the zoning ordinance person? Am I involving the zoning administrator? Am I involving all of you? How do you people know what we're dealing with? Because I don't think you know.
Well, I'm going to have to do what our attorney said.
If I may, that is one of the purposes of public comment. If a citizen is not satisfied with their communications to the township staff on an issue, ultimately everyone that works for the township answers to these 7 folks. And this is the proper way to bring a concern to the township board's attention. But during public comment, the township board cannot take any action. And during public comment, no motions can be made. And I've advised the 3 elected officials that during public comment, none of them should commit the township to any position on any concern that may be raised by a citizen. And that should not be construed to mean that the concern will be ignored. But it's not going to be answered by the township officials unless they choose to disregard my advice, and they're free to do that. But the concerns are presented, they're clearly heard, and someone is welcome to come back at each meeting and raise the same concern if nothing satisfactory has happened between the last meeting.
And I think it's you know, it's good that you brought it to us. I can say that most of us probably, this is the first time we've heard about this concern about Guardian, and, you know, now we have a chance to see what we can do about it.
Is that asphalt being dumped up there environmentally safe?
Can't hear you.
Is the asphalt that's being dumped over there environmentally safe?
We don't have any
I
knowledge of what's
can't
being
answer
dumped.
that because, one, I have not seen the site myself, other than by an aerial shot, and it's pretty hard to tell what pile is a pile of what. I guess if you were to ask the question, is it environmentally safe? It's spread all over the earth.
Well, I know
Is it
like-
environmentally safe? Probably not. But I think that in terms of that one, I couldn't answer what the content is. Are they dumping something else on it? We don't know. So we will be looking at it, and I'm looking at it this week, in fact tomorrow, and it isn't because you came here. It's because that's what my schedule has allowed me to do. And so we're going to look into it, and then we'll take that point from there. Because there is no reason, as you said, and I agree, Donna, that this is a case where the other people are playing the game right, that are business owners, and it should be something that should be considered all the way through. So we'll address the situation, but the correct pathway is through our zoning and ordinance, because that's what they're dedicated to do. They're officers of the court. So we will take that in definite consideration, and we'll try to alleviate that. Yes, your name and address?
Jay Pastana, 928 Joshua Drive. Got a question about whether there is a local or a county ordinance about fireworks. We've had numerous fireworks going off beyond what I think was the stated or allowable duration before or after the 4th of July, and I was wondering if somebody on the board could review what the ordinance is and whether the township has any role in it.
State law.
So you don't get involved at all, and how would I pursue a complaint?
Call the police. And you have to be prepared to identify who's doing it. And that's the biggest problem.
Right.
Like just just the other night, I don't know what it was, but I thought they were going off on Alderman Lake. I couldn't tell where they're coming from. I'm looking at, where is this coming from? You know,
Right.
so you can report it, but the police are going to go, where is it at and who's doing it?
We get that every year. It's a lot. Don't hesitate to call us. Doesn't matter what time. We can't supersede state law, but I don't think there's a specific ordinance in the township for fireworks specifically, but there still is a noise ordinance that can be enforced. With the supervisors, if we do find out somebody's doing it, typically we just we advise them we're getting complaints stopped 90% of the time. That's what works well, and it stops. But if it continues, and you got that same problem, we can issue a ticket. But at that point, we would need you to make a formal report. You would be our complainant. You would be our witness. You would need to show it to court. But we could take some enforcement action at that point. But don't hesitate to call us. Get our dispatch number and call us.
Well, I don't want to complain if it's within the rights or the rules of the state law.
It's
You have to
state
know
law,
what the law
day
is.
before, day of, and day after.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any other public comment?
Of major holidays as defined in the state law, which are pretty extensive. I don't remember if Easter was on there, but
There's enough to make it obnoxious. let's put it
Thanksgiving
that way.
certainly, and Christmas, and
Thanksgiving, really?
for sure.
National holidays.
Wow.
It was an extensive list.
So if you do find out, let me know.
Well, I'll put it on our Facebook page and our website, because I have residents calling, complaining about fireworks, and residents in our home complaining, and pets complaining. It's the day before, the day of, and the day after is fine, but the week after, the week before is unacceptable to us.
You guys are aware of the neighborhood network, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Jay's been there.
And I know you are, so this is a good opportunity to spread that way. So let's put that to work and see what we can do with it. It's pretty effective, I think. So, yes.
I'm grateful for the comments because, like was said, you know, I don't know what's going on in your neighborhood, so now at least we know it as trustees. And, you know, I want to make sure that we get action on that specifically.
I appreciate it.
Is there any odor problems with that asphalt?
Odor?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. Some of it is, they'll go to a site, they'll come back, and whatever they've broken up, and there was pieces, we watched a truck just back up and just dump it. And of course, by the time you get a camera out, they see you, they're gone, they drop dead and they're gone. But it's chunks of concrete, chunks of culvert, chunks of used asphalt, and then in this back section, there's 6 or 8 piles of something that's asphalt, something that's been sitting there for I don't know how long. But is it? Are they dumping a truck with liquid asphalt in it? It's nothing that I've seen. This is other stuff, other older stuff.
Right. Okay. On that
Last
note-
thing,
Yes.
fireworks were very good again, and I actually was across at 59 this year. We decided to go over there with the dentist office, and it was great when I was home in 4 minutes after it was over. That's really convenient. It was really good. It was a good viewpoint from there too, and had a car set up just right. And we were at home, and it was great. Remember the old days of getting out of Kensington Park for hours, and never do that ever again.
Yeah, I should have started with that. It was a fantastic show.
Yeah.
Very
They
nice,
loved it.
very nice.
They loved it.
When it's done at an appropriate time and place.
That's not the day before or the day after this. So how do you get through
Those are display fireworks.
Yeah, no matter what way we look at it, we're stepping on something, so.
I think the folks approved that, didn't you?
Yes, we did. All right, so thank you guys for coming out, appreciate it, and appreciate your comments. And on that note, meeting's adjourned. Wow.
Denise, tell the board